why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, to get through all of the legal proceedings, the criminal trial, and it's four parts, and it spans over 30 years of pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least, to put all of this together.
It's an important story, and you could just tell it with all the public material. Mm-hmm. You go further, you've gotten your hands on some extra new material people are going to see for the first time, including this video. Any journalist would want to know how you got it, but it is Sean Diddy Combs in the heat of this, right before the arrest for the trial we just discussed, in private moments, talking to his lawyer, cameras running.
He also underestimated that with every celebrity, you do have different claims, and some are completely unfounded. But I think that some of these lawsuits, there's receipts. Mm-hmm. And there's footage, and there's voice recordings. And I think that for a man, it's also very interesting, for the culture of hip hop, so many artists record themselves, and they probably, when they were, recording themselves in 2005, never saw the year 2025 and how accessible that media would be to actually make a case for things.
And I think 50 Cent's latest Netflix documentary hit screens on Tuesday and instantly set social media on fire, delivering a hard-hitting deep dive into Diddy's rise to power and dramatic collapse. Fueled by striking revelations, exclusive archival material, and unfiltered perspectives from former insiders, the film moves at a relentless pace, pulling viewers into a high-stakes world that was once hidden from public view. And leasehold of Time's Sean Combs. The Reckoning * former Bad Boy Records employees and artists reflect on the turbulent era surrounding the deaths of Biggie Smalls and Tupac, sharing personal viewpoints and long-held suspicions rather than confirmed conclusions through commentary from rapper Mark Curry, Craig Mack's former wife Roxanne Johnson, and Bad Boy co-founder Kirk Burroughs. The episode revisits a volatile chapter where they describe feelings of exploitation within the label and a rapidly intensifying East-West hip-hop rivalry in the 1,990 seconds. Combined, their recollections paint a deeper, more charged picture of an industry shaped by pressure, ambition, and internal power struggles during one of its most controversial periods.
We've been hearing from Greg Kading, the detective that worked on Tupac and Biggie's case in this documentary. He is the investigator that did that proper agreement with Keefe D way back in 2008, where Keefe D alleged that Diddy tried to offer him $1 million to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. And Tupac's trial with Keefe D is coming up very soon in early 2026. And we know that Diddy's name has been dropped at least 200 times during these proceedings.
And Puff created the atmosphere for both of those guys to lose their life.
I honestly, when I look back on it, if he trusted Sean more, it would have been better. But he didn't trust him as much as the way Sean says they were best friends after he was dead. Nah, I didn't see that during the time we were.
The documentary relentlessly unleashes one bombshell after another, positioning itself as one of the most confrontational deep dives into Diddy ever released. It claims that he is currently being held at a federal facility in New Jersey, serving a sentence tied to transportation-related offenses, while also noting that a jury rejected several higher-level accusations, underscoring the complexity of the case. Public scrutiny around Diddy surged sharply in late 2023 after a high-profile civil lawsuit filed by his former partner ignited a cascade of additional legal actions, pushing his name into non-stop headlines. As the series emphasizes, these claims have continued to multiply, fueling intense debate and speculation, even as Diddy has firmly and repeatedly denied all allegations, leaving the public caught between controversy, legal outcomes, and unanswered questions.
Diddy Combs have now sent a cease and desist letter to Netflix.
That's right. They are demanding it not release a docuseries featuring the embattled.
This documentary doesn't merely rehash old accusations. It escalates the conversation by introducing new claims that reignite headlines and fuel intense public debate. The filmmakers say they obtained rare behind-the-scenes footage of Diddy inside a New York hotel room just days before his arrest, captured by a videographer working with him at the time. The clips reportedly show him discussing next steps with legal counsel and reacting to the overwhelming media storm closing in. Moments the series frames as raw and unscripted, presented as a close-up look at the strain, uncertainty, and pressure beneath the public image. The footage is positioned as a stark contrast to the controlled narrative seen on the surface.
I'm waiting the whole time for Aubrey O'Day to reveal some major story that happened between her and Diddy. 3 episodes in, she's basically just talking about Diddy in a very general way. It isn't until the 4th episode that Aubrey reveals a witness walked in on Aubrey O'Day completely inebriated with Diddy doing things to her, as well as a second man who they refer to as a light-skinned, tall man. Details are very explicit and not anything I could share on here. This witness revealed that it was 100% Aubrey O'Day. It was really uncertain in watching Aubrey's reaction and kind of resharing this story whether or not she fully recollected the situation. He says it couldn't have been her choice to become inebriated because that was never her issue. She never really drank a whole ton. The earlier parts of this series, Aubrey does reveal these series of emails that she got from Diddy. They were all in very sexual nature, in a very sexual tone. He's basically asking her to come over and do certain things with him. It's these very domineering emails where he's basically setting the tone that he's the boss. She says that she felt very uncomfortable about those emails, and 6 months later, she was fired.
It's highly unusual for anyone to speak this candidly before formal charges, as discussions like these are typically guarded behind strict privacy. The documentary argues that allowing a videographer into the room may have inadvertently exposed sensitive legal exchanges, potentially blurring the boundaries of confidentiality. Diddy's legal representatives later told NBC News that the footage was never authorized for release, and that they have no clarity on how it surfaced on Netflix, stressing that the videographer was under binding confidentiality obligations. They firmly maintain the material was meant to remain private, framing its release as a serious breach rather than an intentional disclosure.
Bad boy, we had gotten over CCNY. It looked like the coast was clear. We were renegotiating with Arista. We were about to get a step up in the money. I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. That's like a trick. Like, okay, here, I gave it to you, now give it back, and don't worry, I'm gonna give it right back to you. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Marsalis, they had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it, and Diddy had the bat. Not like I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with the bat, but he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was gonna get beat down in that office, in all honesty. I got people that could jump out of the shadows in a minute. I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up over was the fact that I started this company with you from day zero, and now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. When he told me it was about all of that renegotiating and that I should trust, I did, begrudgingly, angry, upset. It wasn't right. I did it. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me the stock back, he never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me all these years. Not only did he avoid me all these years, running high and low, I went on and started working with Mary, who the three of us started out.
The series further amplifies its impact by spotlighting voices from Diddy's past, including former collaborators, artists, and close associates who offer insider reflections on his ascent and reach within the industry. Among those featured is Times making the band Times alum Aubrey Day, who shares her personal experiences, adding depth and perspective to the unfolding narrative. Her account underscores the layered realities of working in the orbit of a figure widely viewed as one of hip-hop's most dominant and influential power players. reinforcing the documentary's portrayal of ambition, control, and complex professional dynamics behind the scenes.
With Pac's money, Pac wanted to leave, and it could be some other shit that was going on. But they still created an atmosphere for that. You understand that East Coast, West Coast bullshit. When Suge was trying to use the New York guys to, okay, man, come on, let's make some sense of this shit. And have a meeting and sit down with the New York guys and ask for a representative for Puff to come on. Puff was mad. You see now why Puff was mad. Everybody know now why Puff was mad. That he didn't want nobody to come to the meeting because Suge was playing Pay Daddy. Suge was in there playing Play Daddy with Justin. It's crazy. I said, well, how you gonna be mad at Misa and the East Coast, West Coast? And now we see why he was mad. We don't know if Suge sent Puff those pictures years ago. We don't know that. But that's why Puff didn't send a representative when Zipman was asking him, man, let me represent, just let me know. Nah, man, F that. They trying to get a black distribution company, a publishing company, all that for hip hop artists and music. Puff and Jay-Z ain't won't have shit to do with it. And look who get rewarded behind that. So, to answer your question, I think the atmosphere that they designed and made up led to what we know was the East Coast, West Coast war. And both of them had some responsibility in that.
The series continues to escalate with testimony from figures tied closely to Diddy's past as singer Albee. Sure, who once dated Kim Porter, shares what he claims to have observed, while former bodyguard Roger Bonds recounts experiences he says revealed troubling behavior toward Cassie, reflecting that his initial positive impression faded as he learned more. Expanding the scope further, Bad Boy Records co-founder Kirk Burroughs revisits his former ownership stake in the label, alleging that intimidation and pressure forced him to surrender his share, a turning point he says led to personal and professional collapse. Together, these accounts are presented as personal recollections rather than proven facts, painting a stark contrast between the massive success of the Bad Boy brand and the serious disputes, power struggles, and lasting consequences described by those who say they were left behind.
You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looks at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
in the back seat or something.
Yeah. What do you see happening inside their car?
I seen a bullet going Suge's head. I thought he was dead. You thought he was dead.
So Orlando across Dre.
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window. Pop. They would drove on my side, I would pop them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the...
Burroughs later pursued legal action of his own, but the case was thrown out due to the passage of time, and he remains entangled in other legal disputes to this day. Episode 2 then pivots into a hard-hitting examination of the infamous Bad Boy Death Row rivalry, the East Coast, West Coast clash that permanently altered hip-hop's trajectory, contrasting Death Row's roster of Dr. Dre and Tupac with Bad Boy's lineup of Big E, Faith Evans 112, and Mace. The most striking takeaway from the interviews is the assertion that the artists themselves were not driving the conflict. Instead, participants claim powerful industry figures helped sustain and inflame the feud until it reached a breaking point. Within that narrative, Sean Combs is repeatedly named as a central influence, echoing long-standing claims from Gene Deal that executives, not performers, played a decisive role in pushing the rivalry to dangerous extremes.
I'm not gonna go into details on that one. Keep it streets on me. I ain't gonna go into detail on that.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and read from the book.
Well,
so
let them buy the book then.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna read this passage. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command. Keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first skin shook in the head, and I thought that motherfucker was dead. I had heard some stories, supposedly that Suge used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Suge was already wounded, and he was the one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I ducked down so I wouldn't get hit.
Basically, yeah.
White Cadillac, arm came out the back seat and started letting off.
What went through your head when you saw that?
They shot my name.
2008 proper agreement, he alleged that Diddy's friend Zip Martin is the one that gave him the weapon that was used to take out Tupac. And KPD told the investigator Greg Kading that Zip Martin had a special compartment to keep this weapon in his car that he drove to Las Vegas. And in this documentary, we have Greg Kading confirming that Zip Martin did drive the same type of vehicle that KPD alleged to Las Vegas this night. And then during this documentary, we heard from the former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, who alleged during this time, Diddy had him hiring a whole bunch of people and getting cars to drive to Las Vegas. And he is now very curious into why Diddy wanted to do this. And he said, in his opinion, he now believes that Diddy was behind
The documentary claims the label feud expanded far beyond music, evolving into what it portrays as a dangerous street-level conflict, alleging that rival groups became informally aligned with opposing camps tied to Bad Boy and Death Row. Within this narrative, the series places Diddy at the center of a complex web of associations, citing connections through Eric Von Zip, whom Diddy once described as a family figure to Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a name long linked to gang-related discussions in New York. Drawing on recorded material referenced in the series and commentary from former LAPD Detective Greg Kading, the episode presents Davis recounting his version of events surrounding the 1996 Las Vegas shooting that killed Tupac, including claims about the individuals involved. While these accounts are presented as personal statements rather than proven conclusions, the documentary amplifies their impact by featuring interviews with figures like Keefe D himself, layering first-hand perspectives that intensify the controversy and deepen the already explosive narrative.
That after Pac got Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it. And I remember when I interviewed TK Kirkland, who was actually roommates with Zip at one point. They were that close. He actually said, yeah.
The Fed said that too.
He said that actually happened. Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got, Puffy allegedly gave the money.
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire. So thank God. If this is a true story, I'm not saying yes or no, but if he would have gave them the money, it'd have been for hire and Puffy would be locked.
The series intensifies its claims, with Davis alleging that Diddy had offered financial incentives to target Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, who was riding in the same vehicle during the infamous shooting. Assertions presented strictly as his personal account rather than established fact. Davis claims the promised payment never came through, attributing it to Knight surviving the attack and to the funds allegedly disappearing with Eric Von Zip, who has since died. Framed as unproven statements, these remarks are positioned by the documentary as another dark, unsettling layer in a growing web of controversy, further fueling debate and scrutiny around Diddy while underscoring the gravity and complexity of the accusations being revisited.
and speaking on the situation with Biggie, how he was the one in charge of planning this London media trip for Biggie that he was supposed to be on the night that he was actually unalived. Kirk Burrows claims Diddy is the one that canceled this trip and Biggie did not want to go out to Los Angeles. And Kirk Burrows feels like Diddy should be responsible for what happened to Biggie. What Kirk Burrows alleged next is what's really chilling. He said something that we have heard alleged many times, and he said that Biggie was actually leaving Bad Boy Records shortly before he passed away. Kirk Burrows alleged that Biggie already signed the paperwork to get out from underneath Bad Boy. Then Kirk Burrows went on to allege that after Biggie passed away, Diddy came to him and told him to change the terms in the contract that Biggie signed. And he claimed that he was so calculated that he told Kirk Burrows to just switch out the middle pages. That way on the last page, Biggie's signature would still be there. That way Diddy could allegedly...
Burrows claims that Diddy pushed Christopher Wallace, known to the world as Biggie, to travel to Los Angeles to promote his album despite clear hesitation, a decision that ultimately preceded Biggie's fatal shooting in 1997. He argues that this move effectively placed the artist in harm's way and accuses Diddy of later shaping a public narrative that framed the trip as Biggie's personal choice rather than one driven by outside pressure. Presented as allegations rather than proven facts, these assertions introduce a sharp and unsettling challenge to the long-standing version of events, adding fresh controversy to a chapter of hip-hop history that has remained deeply sensitive and fiercely debated for decades.
To go to LA so soon, knowing that Tupac got killed 6 months earlier.
The award show season was up. We had to go out there to participate in that. We had records that were nominated. We were a budding, launching company that already launched and we were successful. We could not go. But Biggie did have an inconvenience. He had a car accident. I think it was in Brooklyn, maybe downtown Brooklyn. He had a broken femur at that time. And he was recovering from that. Big sized person, could not really sit comfortably in a plane, not even first class, with a cast on. It was uncomfortable. He was talked into going to the LA portion of the trip so that he could be out there ahead of time. He was out in LA so there wouldn't be a big rush and bustle to get him there. So I think he was out there for a good week and a half ahead of time leading into the event. So being out there, we came to follow up and to have that night. And then he was supposed to, as per Arresta's marketing department, Arista, one of the best labels and distribution companies that you can have to back you, the legendary Clive Davis, who's backed so many artists, believed in Bad Boy so much, he put together a marketing campaign that was never seen before that campaign and still wasn't seen, but it was put together so that Biggie could receive an international press junket in London with all press from around the world meeting him that Saturday, Sunday after the Friday award show night. He was supposed to go on an international flight with me. We have the itinerary still to this day. He was supposed to leave that early morning, go to London, and we would be out there for 2 or 3 days, and then he would go back to New York and go home. Diddy called Sean P. Diddy, whatever his name was during that time, called late Friday night, early Saturday morning, saying he's not going to London. Call Arista, cancel it. You go. You represent it. You go. He's not going. He wants to stay here in LA.
Kirk then went on to explain that Diddy pulled the budget for Biggie's security on purpose, so he would be left undefended.
You have a budget for everything that you do. The budget for Big in LA for the award show ended that Friday night, Saturday morning, when a new budget started to get him from LA to London, where he would be taken care of with security, his friends, and everyone that he wanted to be with him in the style that he was accustomed to handle the press junket. When that didn't happen, that budget was never opened. The budget for LA ended, and there was a great need for security that Saturday night, and he was out without that security. The beef up. we lost him. And in that decision, what it put us in, that decision put us in the worst situation that we could have ever been in. We lost our number one talent. We're on a West Coast where we're surrounded by enemies who told us not to be here. We really shouldn't have been there, but we were. Now we have to get out of there. At that time, I brought most of the company with me. I had a lot of interns, young people. I had to account for them with their parents. We had to get them home. That weekend, I think we had to get Sean out first. 1, 2, 3 steps in the trunk of a car, moving out the city limits to another airport on that flight out. I stayed until Sunday-ish or so, making sure all the interns, all the executives, every last one of the kids that was out there with us was back east. And then we had to make preparations for Big's family to know where he was at, for them to make preparations to bring him back home a week or so.
Kirk Burrows goes even further, asserting that the bond between Diddy and Biggie was far less personal and supportive than the image Diddy has publicly promoted for years. He claims the two were not especially close and alleges that Biggie's safety was not treated as a priority. A portrayal that sharply contradicts the long-standing narrative of loyalty and brotherhood. Framed as Bureau's personal perspective rather than established fact, these statements introduce a disturbing counterview that challenges the polished legacy surrounding their relationship and deepens the documentary's exploration of power, image, and accountability.
Oh, hi, Gene. How are you?
All right, man. You know I ain't seen you since I came to your house and had that conversation with you. How you been? You all right?
I've been okay. I've been watching you on Facebook.
I'm sorry, Ms. Wallace. I'm sorry I had to do what I had to do, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay. I know you do.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Like I told people, I said if Ms. Wallace would have called me and told me to shut it down, I would have shut it down. Ms. Wallace ain't called. She knew how to get in touch with me. If Ms. Wallace didn't tell me to shut it down, I'm going to keep doing it because I respect you, Ms. Wallace.
Do what you do.
First thing I said was, Ms. Wallace, if you tell me to stop, leave Puff, stop, not to say leave Puff. If you tell me to stop doing what I'm doing, I will. She said, no, G, I watch you. You keep doing it. You doing a good job. You, man, listen here. Yo. I was happier than one of them boys at a Diddy party. I was so happy, man, it was crazy. Cause this was the first time I had talked to Miss Wallace since the last time I talked to her and was telling her about Big's death.
Adding to the weight of the controversy, Biggie's mother has openly said in past interviews that she believes Diddy may have been involved in circumstances surrounding her son's death, a belief she has expressed as a grieving parent rather than a legal conclusion. Her statements injected deeply personal and emotional gravity into the narrative, intensifying public scrutiny over events that have haunted hip-hop history for decades. Framed as her perspective, not proven fact, her words nonetheless deepen the complexity of the allegations and amplify the unresolved questions that continue to surround Biggie's legacy and the powerful figures connected to it.
Getting into what happened with Biggie. And Greg Kading alleged that Diddy wasn't helpful at all in the investigation into what happened to Biggie. We saw a lot of different records being put on the screen where it said he did not want to give any more info at this time, and this was at the hospital where Biggie passed away. And I also noticed this document that flashed on the screen that was from investigator Russell Poole. And Russell Poole said that he called Miss Wallace to update her on the investigation and that she was frustrated and angry that no one had been arrested for her son's unaliving. After bringing her up to date on the case and explaining our frustration with the lack of cooperation from Puppy Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, plus Biggie's own entourage's lack of further assistance in the investigation, Miss Wallace calmed down and understood the situation. Ray Kading said in this documentary he believed that Diddy did not cooperate with Biggie's investigation because it would have led investigators back to him with Tupac's unaliving. I always remember the saying that when you solve one of their cases, you will solve the other. And that's why I honestly can't wait until
Diddy has repeatedly rejected every accusation outlined in the series. And those denials now stand as his primary line of defense as scrutiny continues to intensify. The documentary makes clear that if even a single claim were to gain broader acceptance, it could unravel the polished public persona he has carefully constructed over decades, exposing vulnerabilities few ever expected to see. Framed within uncertainty rather than conclusions, the moment represents a critical crossroads where reputation, legacy, and public perception hang in the balance, with the potential consequences far outweighing anything he has previously faced.